Hello again from my front porch, where it is a beautiful sunny day in Iowa. It has been with all day today. It's been that way. A little windy, but hey, I'll take it. Now the wind though it is interesting because there was I did an episode a while back where I was sort of stranded overnight in Charlotte, North Carolina, because the weather in Iowa was not going to allow me to fly back home that night. I've been connecting through Charlotte and then couldn't make the rest of the trip because here in Iowa there were storms that included some really powerful, strong winds that were making it just really impossible for planes to land. And as inconvenient as that is, and this is what we talked about in that episode, I would much rather be grounded safely in Charlotte than to be on a plane trying to navigate through the massive turbulence that those kind of winds would have caused. So yes, it was an inconvenience, but at least I'm still here to observe the inconvenience. Now, I'm not making light of those things. In fact, I wanted to just take a moment to address this. Sometimes I start to do these and I'm not even really sure what I'm going to call them until afterwards, but this one, I know right off the bat what I was going to call this one. This episode is But for the Grace of God. And the reason I say that is because I travel a lot. I fly a lot. And it does seem like we have been getting bombarded lately with a lot of reports of air travel disasters, of crashes. And not all of them, but there are some of them that, especially if they involve destinations that I fly to or from, if they involve airlines that I have been on, I will get contacted by friends or even some family members wanting to verify my safety, to make sure that I am okay, that I'm not in that. And I kind of chuckle, but by the same token, if I had been, I would have no way of telling them. And so, I appreciate the concern. I do. Sometimes, though, I do wish that maybe they would watch the report a little bit more and they would see that, maybe it's not even a commercial plane. Maybe it's a small plane, like the tragedy that just happened not long ago of a plane leaving from Des Moines and flying to Minneapolis, and that crashed into a house. That fortunately the people were on vacation, but the whole house went up in flames and everybody on the plane died, but it was a small plane. And, I would not have been on this small private jet. And so no, I was not in that one. No, I'm not flying that way. I'm still flying the big commercial ones, yes. But there have obviously been some of those that have had issues as well. And not even just tragedies, but just, mechanical issues and fire issues and things of that nature. And so while I have had some inconveniences due to delayed flights, due to canceled flights caused because of weather, caused because of mechanical issues, which again, hey, I'm inconvenienced by the delay, but if there's something wrong with the plane that you need to fix, by all means, take your time, fix it. I'll figure out the other stuff because I'd rather you fix it while we're here on the ground than it become an issue when we're up in the sky, and I know that's their intention as well. It also the time, because the crews of the planes can only be on the clock for so long. It's kind of like semi drivers. They can only be driving behind the wheel for so long. Then they are forced by law to have to pull over and rest. And so they have to gauge out that they're getting to a rest area, a rest stop place where they can do that. Because you don't want someone who's tired behind the wheel of a semi. That'd be bad. Just like you don't want crew tired and exhausted, both flying the plane, but also then the flight attendants who have to help in the case of emergency. You want them to be sharp. You can't have them be exhausted and running on empty. And so if a crew's times out, well, if they don't have another crew, well, then that messes up flight plans too. So I have experienced all of those kind of things, but I have fortunately, knock heavily on wood, I have fortunately not encountered any kind of airline crash or certainly not a disaster. But I mean, even like the engine catches on fire, nothing. I have not experienced anything like that, and I hope never to experience that. But I do know that my odds of encountering something like that are higher than, well, a lot of other people, because simply of the fact that I do fly so much for work, and it's not going to be slowing down anytime soon. So, I just wanted to address. Now, let me also pause. Remember, my degree is in journalism, and as such, I do find myself intrigued sometimes at the things that get reported and the things that don't get reported, because there's generally some rationale behind that. One of the things I do know, or at least that was taught to us in journalism school, was one of the reasons you write a news story is because it's different, it's unique, it stands out. And so you would think that the reports of air disasters, of air incidents, the prevalence of those would mean that we're seeing more of those than we traditionally see. That's not actually the case. I mean, we have seen several, but that's not actually the case. Excuse me, because 2022 there were about 1,200 air crashes. 2023, I think, about another 1,200, a little more than that. No, I saw one stat said 2024 there were 1,400. And you know that in none of those years have we seen a report on every single one of those. We've only seen reports on the big disasters, the ones that, had a fireball, that people lost their life, that, like the unfortunate tragedy that happened just a few days ago, the helicopter that crashed in New York, where literally the rotor blade on top apparently looks like it completely broke off the top of the helicopter and it spins off on its own while what's left of the helicopter plummets into I think it's the Hudson River, and everybody on the helicopter, the whole family that was on there, they all die, and the pilot. And so, those tragedies understandably get coverage. I'm not saying they shouldn't be, but there have been a lot. It feels like, at least to me, it feels like there's been a lot more attention paid to those kind of situations than what we traditionally had before. Even, I think, way back to the crash that happened in Sioux City, or the crash that happened in D.C. where Captain Sully landed the plane there. And while we did fixate on the crash, we tended to focus more on the heroics of the crew and the pilot, and how lives were saved, and how they worked. But now we don't focus. Now we focus on the crash and what went wrong in the airs. And I hate to say it, but it feels like there's a little bit of a political angle to this. Specifically, that when President Trump came back into office, one of the things that he did early on was to clean house at the top of the FAA. And almost immediately we started seeing all these reports of these crashes, these things going, and people like, what is going on? How did Trump screw up the aviation business and all of that just so quickly? And I just want to pump the brakes on that. And I'm not a Trump defender by any stretch, but if you really think that cleaning house, that getting rid of people at the top of an agency in D.C. means that almost immediately, because it was just literally within days that crash happened in D.C., where the military helicopter ran into the airplane, and people were like, yeah, that's because Trump, he fired those people at the FAA, and so you seriously think that people here at the very top of the FAA are so important to the literal nuts and bolt day-to-day operation that if you let go of these people at the very top, all of these folks down the line in the towers and the planes and the helicopter, the pilots, they all just like that lose their skills. They can no longer do their job without a bureaucrat at the top telling them this is what. Come on, nobody believes that. I would hope nobody believes that. Now, the people at the top leading things, yes, they are important. I'm not discounting that, but the idea that you can let go of people at the top of an agency and immediately there's this, everybody forgets how to do their job, I don't buy that. Now, I'm not making commentary on whether he should have let those people go, whether the approaches to filling the there have been all kinds of back and forth about that. I'm not getting into that. I'm just saying it feels like the coverage though has ramped up because I'll bet many of you did not know that last year there were 1,400 air collisions or air crashes, that the years before that were 1,200 each. You probably had no idea that many had been going on. And yet, now it seems like every time there is something, whether there's a loss of life or not, we're seeing it on the news. It's being paraded around. And some of them are even being used by the president's critics to say, see, look how bad this has gotten under him. Well, again, if the issue is human error, whether in the tower or in the plane, I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that most, if not maybe none, of the people involved have been hired since January 20th. That they were already on the job. Now, they could have been hired during Trump's first term, I suppose, but still, my point is, you can't say that, well, he came into office and he made these changes and now we got people don't know what to, no, these people were already there. They were already working at these jobs. And so you're saying they became incompetent because of Trump. Again, that line of thought just doesn't resonate with me. I just don't accept that at all. Now, what is the problem? What is the cause? I'm going to tell you, I think the cause is complacency. And I'm going to use myself as an example because this doesn't have to do with the tower or the operation of the plane, but I fly a lot. And I sit there as we're getting ready to take off, and every single flight, the flight attendants take us through the safety protocols. I've even sat in the exit row where I now have an obligation, and they come by and say, "Are you ready, willing, and able to help if there's an emergency to get people?" Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Yeah. And so I have a responsibility there in that capacity. But when they're doing their safety discussion, just like everybody else, I'm not paying any attention. Why? Because, well, I fly all the time and I've never had a problem. And who's to think that there's going to be any problem with this plane? It's not going to happen. I guarantee you, every single one of those other instances where there has been a crash, the 1,200s, the 1,400, and the ones that have happened this year, there's not one single one of those aircraft that when they were taking off, people on that aircraft went, you know what? I think we're going to have a problem today. I think we're going to have issues. Because if they had felt that, if they thought that, they wouldn't have taken off. That's where they would have had the delay due to schedule, due to mechanics, due to the personnel. They would have paused. They wouldn't have taken off in the first place. So, I am guilty of being complacent about the safety protocols. Because, as they tell you in the safety thing, every plane is a little bit different. See, I do hear that part, but I don't know what it means. I don't pay attention enough to know what they're saying about this plane is different than other planes. And so, if I and all the other people on the plane are that complacent about it, how do you think it is sometimes for the folks at the airport who are maintaining the planes, for the pilots and the crew who are checking things off on the planes, for the people in the tower who are monitoring stuff on their little monitors, who are watching things? Now, all of their jobs are very, very, very serious, and yet it can become so mundane, so routine, that you can miss something. Not intentionally, not on purpose. It just happens. Well, most of the time that's not a problem. But then there's that one time when it is. And through no fault of your own, whoever the person is that missed the thing, whatever the thing is, they now create an issue for a lot of other people, potentially a deadly one. Now, when these airline issues happen, when there is a crash and things, there's always the investigation. They try to figure out what was the cause. And if it was some kind of mechanical issue, then immediately all the government and all the airlines and the FAA, well, I guess it's the government, jump into high gear with saying, okay, how do we need to fix all the planes so this doesn't happen anymore. There was the one, I think it was last year, where they had the door that blew off. There had been a door and they put a spacer in now. They took out the door and just bolted a spacer, but apparently hadn't done it correctly or completely, and it came off during the flight. And so, okay, that's a really good cue to say, okay, all the other planes have got this. We need to check, make sure. And so they do a good job with that. And I got to tell you, I still, even with all the air tragedies that have happened, I still feel safer getting on a plane than I do driving my car on the highway most of the time. And I say that not because I'm worried about myself, but because of other idiots who are out there. And, not only am I flying to other parts of the country, I'm driving there too. I'm renting a car and I'm driving in places where I don't always know the lay of the land as well, but there are other drivers who do, and they drive like maniacs. I know what maniacs drive like here, but I'm used to them, and I know how to deal with them here. Other parts of the country, I got to learn. I got to pick up what some of those things are. And especially, the difference between daytime and nighttime, and certainly if there's been an event going on. Not just like, oh, it's Friday night, Saturday night, people at bars, but I'm talking like a Super Bowl or a St. Patrick's Day or, some Mardi Gras going on in New Orleans if I'm down in that area. And you got to be mindful that there's people who are compromised in their mental acuity. and you got to drive for them as much as you got to drive for yourself. And if you're not paying attention, if I become complacent in those situations, that could cause me serious problems. And so when I'm driving, I have to be on guard the whole time. If I'm on an airplane, I can sit back and relax because I put my trust in the people in the cockpit and the staff who are employed to support on that plane. I know they're trained professionals. And so odds are against anything happening, but even if it did, I believe they can handle it, and I still believe that. I have not seen or heard anything that causes me to not think that. Although I see a lot of people now, again, they usually couple it with some sort of anti-Trump statement, and that's why I just like, people, stop doing this. You're just looking stupid when you do it. But people who would say things like, air traffic has gotten so dangerous under Trump, I'm not flying on a plane again until he's out of office. Really? That is dumb. And so don't, if you don't like Trump, that's fine. Say whatever you want. But don't make stupid comments like that, because the issues we're seeing right now today are not because he came into office, 3 months ago. And if he stays in office all 4 years, then just because he leaves office doesn't mean people that had started and programs started during the time are going to magically go away. So you're going to have to wait a whole lot longer after he's out of office, if that is your mentality. I'm just saying. But I don't think that has to do with any of this stuff. I think it has to do with just people not paying attention to what they need to, and we need to tighten those things up. On the construction job sites, we deal with this all the time because you have crews that are doing the same kind of job. They're building forms to pour concrete in for these walls, and then they're going to build forms over here to pour concrete in, and then we're going to forms back here, build forms to pour concrete back here, and that's the same basic function. It's very easy to get complacent because you're just doing the same thing every day, and when you get complacent, that's when you open yourself up to problems. That's when you allow the opportunity either for shoddy workmanship, so lower quality, or safety issues. And both of those then hurt the schedule, they hurt productivity. It's all this cycle. That's why at Baker we have this thing called balanced SSQP, safety, schedule, quality, and productivity. All four are important and equal. We have to be mindful of all four. That same mentality, I think, is missing with some of how we're doing the air industry right now, and that's where there need to be some of those improvements. And they're probably not even with the airlines. They're probably not even with the people in the tower. Probably a lot of it is maintenance crew. I don't know what the staffing is like on those, and what kind of pay they're getting, what kind of skill set they're looking for. That would be an important area for us to maybe be having more of a discussion about. But again, I am fortunate that I have not encountered any of this, and I am hopeful that I am able to keep saying that for a very long time. But again, I am fully aware, I am fully appreciative that, but for the grace of God, any of these things could have happened with a flight that I was on, and I am so thankful it is not. My heart goes out to those who have been impacted by these tragedies. My thanks goes out to the professionals who have made sure that every flight I've been on so far has been okay. And so with that, as I'm baking here in the Iowa sun, I'm going to let you go, and I'll see y'all next time from my front porch.